Srila Narahari Sarkar Thakur is one of an intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from a village near in Bengal called Srikhanda. So this particular village, Srikhanda, is so famous in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela. So many wonderful devotees have come from this place. And the chief of, there are many devotees. However, one of the chief devotee from Srikhanda is Srila Narahari Sarkar Thakur. And Srila Narahari Sarkar is born in a family of Vaidyas. Vaidyas means doctors. So that particular town, Srikhanda, was so famous for because a lot of doctors actually settled in that town. So these are like traditional physicians. So they are called as Vaidyas. And there was one particular couple like Sri Narayan and Goyi Devi, and there they had three sons. The eldest son was Mukunda, and the middle one, the next son, the second son was Madhava, and the third son was Narahari. So because they all came from this family, so they were called Sarkar, Mukunda Sarkar, Madhava Sarkar, and Narahari Sarkar. Mukunda Sarkar is the eldest son, and Narahari is the youngest son. And we will also see about Mukunda Sarkar because he is the famous father of Raghunandan Das Thakur. So we will see about them also in the flow in while discussing the life of Srila Narahari Sarkar. After the father of Narahari Sarkar actually passed away, Mukunda Sarkar, being the eldest brother, sends Narahari Sarkar to study in Navadvip. It is considered, the Navadvip is considered as the Oxford of Vedic studies in those days. It's a high seat of learning. There were prominent seats of learning in India at that point of time, like Mithila or Varanasi. Similarly, this particular place, Navadvip, was also a equally or even a super excellent place of seat of learning. So many students would come there. It was something like a university town. So many people would go there to study various branches of Vedic knowledge. And here Narahari Sarkar was sent to Navadvip from Srikhanda by his brother to study. And when he was studying in Navadvip, by then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not started his pastimes, had not manifested his Sankirtan pastimes. So still, Narahari Sarkar was naturally such an advanced devotee. He was writing poems about Radha Krishna's intimate pastimes. So even before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began the movement, Sankirtan movement, he was already a devotee of Lord Krishna. And he wrote many poems when he was staying in Navadvip. And during his stay, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually went to Gaya and then came back and started manifesting his Sankirtan pastimes. We're not going into the details of uh, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu beginning that movement, but when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually began the Sankirtan movement, just imagine the Supreme Lord has come in this age of Kali to begin the Sankirtan movement, to propagate the Sankirtan movement, and he has waited for a while before he actually manifested it. And when he was actually manifesting, Srila Narahari Sarkar was in Navadvip, and he actually was also taken. Took to that chanting of the Hare Krishna along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar Pandit. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came from Gaya, everybody thought he became mad because he was exhibiting symptoms which they had not seen earlier. Nobody has seen such symptoms manifested in his body or in anyone's body, because so intensely he was manifesting the Ashta Sattvika Vikar, the different manifestations of loving devotional service. And many doctors actually diagnosed it as epilepsy or various other diseases. So Mother Sachi, who is the mother of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was very concerned that her son is being diagnosed as having some disease. So she was very, very uh, fearful. At that point of time, Gadadhar Pandit, who was one of the intimate associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was of the similar age as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was the same. He was living in the same town, not a classmate, but very much like living in the same town, and he was an intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but those pastimes had not yet manifested. And at this point of time, it was only Sri Gadadhar Pandit who could console Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was in the ecstasies. He knew the right thing to tell him, to pacify him, to make him like actually cool down, to make him like keep him under control. So Sachi Mata saw that it was only Sri Gadadhar Pandit who could actually control Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So she requested Gadadhar Pandit that you please stay always with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Gadadhar Pandit actually took this instruction so seriously. He stayed throughout his life on the by the side of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even after he took sannyas and left to Jagannath Puri, still Sri Gadadhar Pandit never left the side of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking the instructions of Sachimata to his heart. And at this point of time, it was Sri Gadadhar Pandit who was always by the side of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Gadadhar Pandit was assisted by Narahari Sarkar. So that is how intimate he became with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he became one of his personal assistants and started being by the side of Narahari Sarkar, by the side of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And later, he after his studies, he goes back to his place. And there was once Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu had come to Navadvip to join the Sankirtan pastimes. So once they actually visited the village of Narahari Sarkar, which is Srikhanda. So in their travelings, doing Sankirtan, so they visited Srikhanda, the village of Narahari Sarkar, and Narahari Sarkar very happily received them and hosted them in at his place. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, they were completely immersed in singing and chanting Hare Krishna, and they were engaging everybody in this congregational chanting of the holy names. And when everybody was so absorbed in that mood of divine love for Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu both actually was manifesting the divine love that they were experiencing. And in that mood, they actually understood who Narahari Sarkar is in his original constitutional position in the spiritual world. Because all these devotees were all eternal associates of Sri Krishna, who has come to assist him in his pastimes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So while singing and dancing the holy names and being absorbed in the divine love of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, understanding what is the eternal situation of Narahari Sarkar, requested Narahari Sarkar that we want to taste some honey. We are having desire to now taste some honey. So it is explained why they specifically asked honey from Narahari Sarkar, because Narahari Sarkar is considered is the gopi called as Madhumati in Krishna Leela. And the service of Madhumati, Madhu itself means honey, and the Madhumati Gopi's service in the spiritual world was to serve honey to the uh, divine couple Radha and Krishna during their pastimes. So, understanding the eternal constitutional position of Narahari Sarkar as Madhumati Gopi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu actually requested Narahari Sarkar, we are having a desire to taste honey now. So, after hearing this, Narari Sarkar was extremely pleased. But the thing is, where do you get honey from suddenly? So he was trying to arrange for honey. But in his desire to please Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, he had such an intense desire to please Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just imagine, that is his eternal service in the spiritual world. And here, understanding that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu are asking for it. So this is his first opportunity to render the same flavor of service that he renders in Goloka Vrindavan. So he became uh, so excited. He actually turned one of the water ponds next to his home, into a pond of honey. Because of his intense desire to serve honey to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, by his intense desire and enthusiasm to serve, he actually transformed a whole pond of water which was close to his home into a pond of honey. And from that pond of honey, he served Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. as much as they wanted to taste honey. And then it was also Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu distributed after that honey to all the devotees also. And to this day, there is a pond next to the house of Narahari Sarkar in Srikanda called as Madhu Pushkarani. And over the years, now the honey has turned into water here in this place, but it is, you can still taste the sincerity and the eagerness of Narahari Sarkar to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, that he transformed a pond of water into a pond of honey. And being the eternal associate in Krishna Lila as Madhumati Gopi, he actually was so satisfied serving honey to Gaur Nitai. And in this way, when he was serving and taking part in the movement of Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu in Navadvip area. And we all know, after a while, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and left to Jagannath Puri. So all the devotees were completely broken hearted that suddenly the Lord of their life, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has actually left their association and never to be seen again, because in those days, once anyone takes sannyas, they don't come to the birthplace, they don't come into the same association or same environment that they were before taking sannyas. So it's very rare to see the person again. So they were all very much aggrieved that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, without informing that he had left, having taken sannyas, and he had left to Jagannath Puri. And there are so many pastimes. They get to meet him in Advaita Acharya's place, and then he leaves to Jagannath Puri. So now all the devotees, they could not join him to Jagannath Puri to follow him. Only four of them, four devotees could join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his journey towards Jagannath Puri. So many devotees, including Narahari Sarkar, were left behind in their own places in and around Navadvip. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reaches Jagannath Puri and then has various pastimes, and then he meets Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, transforms him into a devotee. And after that, he actually proceeds to uh, preach this message of chanting the holy names to the people of South India. So he takes up this tour of South India after he takes sannyas, and it takes 6 years for him to complete actually the whole tour of South India. And when he comes back, the devotees have been missing the audience of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for such a long time, because they were trying to send messengers from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri to see how is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doing. But they got a message that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually left on a tour to South India, and there is no other news. There is no news that where he is, what he is doing, and when he is going to come back. So it was in those days, there is no easy way of tracking and communicating with someone who is traveling like this. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being a sannyasi, was traveling according to his own sweet will, being the Supreme Lord. He was just traveling to various places in South India. And when he finally returns back to Jagannath Puri, then Kalakrishna Das, who had a small issue during the travel with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was actually not favored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu anymore as a personal servant. So Nityanand Prabhu and the other devotees, who being very merciful, wanting to engage him, they actually send him to Navadvip to give the news that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has finally arrived back in Jagannath Puri after his South India tour. Kalakrishna Das, he takes this message and goes and informs all the devotees like Sachi Mata, Advaita Acharya, and various Srivas Thakur and various devotees, and the devotees who are living nearby Navadvip, like Srikanda and Katwa and all these places. So he goes and then passes this information to all the devotees who are living in and around Navadvip about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's return to Jagannath Puri. So after hearing this, all the devotees decide that they want to go to Jagannath Puri and meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it's been a long time that they have not met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they all decide that let's go, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will not come. He is a sannyasi. He will not come to Navadvip. Let's all go to Jagannath Puri so that we can attend Rath Yatra and we can be in the presence and the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the first time they actually decide to embark on this famous uh, trip that they continue to undertake every year after that, from Bengal to Jagannath Puri. And we all know Shivananda Sen, an intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, takes up the responsibility to organize the party of devotees, to arrange for their travel, accommodation, food, and during the transit, as well as in their stay at during Rath Yatra in Jagannath Puri. So in this way, actually all the devotees gather at the house of Advaita Acharya. And in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes how various devotees assembled from various parts of in and around Navadvip at the home of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur. And Narahari Sarkar, Mukunda Sarkar, Raghunandan Thakur, they all also assembled at the house of Advaita Acharya and joined Advaita Acharya and proceeded to have the darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And when they arrived at Jagannath Puri for the first time, actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not there because he was in Alarnath, because there was no darshan of Jagannath ji for 15 days before Rath Yatra. And in this way, every year they used to come to take the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And let me read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, where whenever they came to visit Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, they had intimate interactions with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So once Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually glorifying all the devotees because they stayed for 3 or 4 months, and after their stay they had actually they're planning to go back. So that is when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they are all planning to return, he actually was glorifying each devotee before sending them off. So, in one such occasion, one of the years, when Narahari Sarkar and Mukunda Sarkar, his brother, and Raghunandan, his nephew, all of them were planning to leave, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu turned his attention towards them. And then he was, because they were all residents of Kanda, there was some conversation going on with the residents of Sri Kanda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually asked Mukunda Sarkar, who was the elder brother of Narahari Sarkar, that you are the father and your son is Raghunandan. And then he asked, is it that you are his father or is he your father? Please let me know the facts. And Mukunda Sarkar explains that Raghunandan Thakur is my father and I'm his son. And he explains, because Raghunandan taught me and brought me to devotion of Krishna, I consider him as my father. So therefore, in my mind, even though he is my son, I respect him as if he is my father. So hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased, and he says, one who awakens devotion to Krishna is certainly the spiritual master. So here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that how, see, yaha haite Krishna bhakti, say Guru hoy. Whoever awakens the devotion to Krishna in one's heart, he is also a spiritual master. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy to speak the glories of his devotees. And then, as if he had 5 mouths, he started glorifying Mukunda. So we will see what is the glory of Mukunda Sarkar, who is a brother of Narahari Sarkar. So here Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually informs all the devotees, please hear, my dear devotees, about Mukunda Sarkar's love of Godhead. He said it is a very deep and pure love and can only be compared to purified gold. Why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually glorifying Mukunda Sarkar is, once Mukunda Sarkar, who is actually a physician uh, by birth, I was explaining how Narahari Sarkar took birth in the family of Vaidyas, physicians. So his brother Mukunda, as per the family tradition, actually was trained as a physician. And because his father passed away early and he had the responsibility, being the elder brother, to take care of the family, he had to take up the role of a physician, and not just any physician. He became the royal physician engaged in the governmental service of the Muslim king of the area that he was serving. So he actually became a servant of a Muslim king, but he had internally deep love for Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, who can understand the love of Mukunda? One day, Mukunda, the royal physician, was seated with the Muslim king on a high platform and was telling the king about the medical treatment. So he was explaining the king about the various aspects of the treatment that he was planning to give to the king. At that point, when the king and Mukunda was conversing, a servant of the Muslim king actually brought a peacock fan to actually fan the king. So he brought a peacock feather to shade the king and give him some relief. Consequently, he held the fan above the king's head, and in this way, he was fanning. So, just by seeing the peacock feathered fan, Mukunda became completely absorbed in ecstatic love of God, of Krishna. So the peacock feather actually reminded him of Krishna. So it is called Uddipan in the Nectar of Devotion. That there is these gives actually stimulus. These are actually those stimuluses in devotion service. By looking at an object of devotion related to the paraphernalia related to Krishna, very closely or even remotely, suddenly a advanced devotee remembers Krishna and especially becomes very absorbed in ecstatic love and exhibits loving symptoms because it came suddenly. So there, in general, like if you examine, Mukunda Sarkar was already filled with love of God. It's not that only when he saw the peacock fan he achieved love of God. He always had love of God, but he was dealing with this king. He was dealing with this world, so he was in external consciousness. His extreme internal consciousness was actually a little bit uh, taken a back seat when he was dealing with the world. But because this particular Uddipan came suddenly, he could not actually plan how to react to it. So, being a devotee on a very high platform of love, suddenly being shown a peacock feather and remembering Krishna, he did not have control how to respond to it. So, Rupa Goswami explains this in the Nectar of Devotion. And because of that sudden Uddipan, he actually starts exhibiting love of symptoms of love of God, like the Ashta Sattvika Vikar. And suddenly manifesting those symptoms, he actually falls from the high platform on which he was conversing with the king. Suddenly he falls to the ground from that high platform, and the king was so surprised. He feared actually probably the royal physician is killed because he fell from such a height. So see, he personally descended, like being in anxiety that what happened to my physician. See, he personally descends and actually helps revive his consciousness. And the king was asking the Mukunda that, is it paining you because you fell from such a height? Is it paining? Mukunda says, oh no, I'm not very much pain. And then the king asked Mukunda, why did you fall? Mukunda replies, I I have it because he is a devotee absorbed in Krishna, and the ecstasy actually manifested, but he didn't want to tell it to anyone. So it's generally when devotees achieve higher levels of ecstasy, it's not that they manifest it for public recognition. So he did not want to reveal it to the king, whom he did not consider as qualified to know these internal secrets. So he said, my dear king, it was just because I have a disease like epilepsy. I can get these kind of seizures suddenly because of me having epilepsy. But the king, being an intelligent administrator, he could understand the whole affair is not just an epilepsy or any kind of seizures. It seemed very different. So he could understand that Mukunda, even though not very clear what is the stature of Mukunda, he could at least understand he is a very exalted and liberated personality. And who's telling this? It is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who's personally recounting this pastime in the assembly of devotees. Mukunda never told this to anybody. Nobody would ever know this because he did not tell this to anybody. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he was living in Jagannath Puri, he understood what was happening in Sri Khanda. And since Mukunda will not reveal his own glory, to glorify Mukunda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed this to the assembly of the devotees. And Narahari Sarkar's family was so elevated that the son of Mukunda, Raghunandan Thakur, was so sincere in his service to Krishna that every day on the banks of this Madhu Pushkarani, where Narahari Sarkar manifested, transformed water into honey, on the banks of this particular pond, there is a Kadamba tree in which daily there are two flowers of Kadamba that blossom for Krishna's service. Whenever Raghunandan wants to offer those two Kadamba flowers, so every day there will be two Kadamba flowers in that tree. And any season, because Kadamba has a very short season, in India, depending on whether you're in Vrindavan or in Mayapur. It has a very specific season, and only during those times you can see the Kadamba flowers, and that too is a very narrow span of season. Here in the house of Raghunandan or Narahari Sarkar, every day, whatever may be the time of the year, irrespective of the season, this Kadamba tree would give two flowers every day for the worship of Krishna. So that is how Raghunandan, Narahari Sarkar, and Mukunda Sarkar, they were mystical in the because of their highly advanced devotional service. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued to speak with Mukunda. He says, Mukunda, your duty, because all these three devotees have come together to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they're planning to go back to their own village after the 4 months of Chaturmas. And when they are about to leave, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling Mukunda, my dear Mukunda, Mukundera kahe puna madhura vachan, tomara karya dharme dana uparjan. So he says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks to Mukunda saying, with sweet words, O Mukunda, your duty is to earn both material and spiritual wealth. Dharme dhana uparjana. You have the responsibility of earning both material and spiritual wealth. He is already a very advanced devotee, so spiritual wealth he has it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving him an instruction to earn material wealth also. And then he turns to Raghunandan, who is the son of Mukunda. O Raghunandan, it is the duty of yours to always engage in Lord Krishna's service. You have no other intention but the service of Krishna. Krishna seva vina ihar anya nahi man. Your mind has nothing else to do other than Krishna's service. Here you see he is asking father to earn and son to actually not earn anything, just engage in the service. It should be the other way. Actually, the father is older. He should be relieved from his services, and Raghunandan, who is younger, should be asked to take up this responsibility of earning money. But somehow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here asked the father to earn money and the son to actually just engage in Lord Krishna's service. And then he turns to Narahari Sarkar, who's the brother of Mukunda. He says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then orders Narahari, O Narahari Sarkar, I wish you to remain here with my devotees in Jagannath Puri. In this way, the three of you should always execute these three duties for the service of the Lord. So even though they're all from the same family, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives different duties to different personalities according to their respective position. And Narahari Sarkar, in that, after taking this instruction, remains in Jagannath Puri in the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as one of the close associates. There are multiple sannyasis who were staying with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his personal assistants and intimate associates. So Narahari Sarkar also was one of them. So Mukunda Sarkar is asked to earn both the spiritual and the material wealth. Now Raghunandan Thakur is asked to engage in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in Sri Krishna always, without any other desire. And Narahari Sarkar was told to engage in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the association of devotees. Basically, one was asked to be a grihastha, one was asked to be a brahmachari, the other one was asked to be a sannyasi. So Narahari Sarkar becomes a sannyasi, and in this way, Sri Chaitanya in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set forth three duties for three different people. So Mukunda was to earn money and follow the religious principles, whereas Narahari was to remain with the Lord's associates, and Raghunandan was to engage in the Lord's service in the temple, deity worship. So thus one person worships in the temple, another earns money honestly by executing his professional duty, and yet another preaches Krishna consciousness with the devotees. Apparently, these three types of service appear separate, but actually they are not. When Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the center, everyone can engage in different activities for the service of the Lord. That's the verdict of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in the association of devotees, different personalities may have to engage in different kinds of services to fulfill the various aspects of Lord Krishna's service, and they are all spiritually equal. And Krishna is pleased based on the sincerity with which one is performing the service. It's not just the externals of the service, it is also the sincere mood of that devotee. They may be The person may be simply washing utensils in kitchen, or sweeping the floor, or preaching the glories of the holy names on a high platform to thousands of people. However, yes, they also get the benefit, those who are preaching, because Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, there is nobody who is more dear to me than preaching, than the servant who is preaching my glories to others. So it's a very glorious service. However, it also depends on the consciousness of the person engaging in a particular service. How the world is benefited can vary. However, what the individual benefits depends on his own purity of his own consciousness when he is trying to render service for the pleasure of Krishna. So, any simple activity one performs in service to Krishna, if it is performed with the purity of intention, with seriousness and sincerity, that is enough to actually please Krishna. Because anyone who is sincere will not hold back, will not hold back. They will try to give whatever they can do the best to Krishna. And we can only give to Krishna what we have. We cannot give to Krishna what we don't have. Srila Prabhupada also said, we don't have anything. We are not the owners of anything. Everything that we have is Krishna's. But we have not received everything from Krishna. We have got minute qualities. As infinitesimal spirit souls, Krishna is Vibhu and the individual soul is Anu. So Krishna's qualities are unlimited, but the jiva has limited qualities. So similarly, each and every soul in this world has certain qualities, talents, and abilities to engage in Krishna service. So all those abilities come from Krishna. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Paurusham Rishu means Paurusham, the ability of men come from him. All the ability that anyone in this world possesses, all those abilities actually comes from Krishna. And when we try to engage those abilities given to us by Krishna, we have to do it in a mood of gratitude, humility, and sincere service. And an advanced devotee, whatever maybe he may be having small, lesser qualities or more qualities in comparison to others. Whatever he has, he offers it 100% to Krishna. So if all sincere devotees offer their 100%. So from their perspective, they are all offering their 100%. So there is no, in that way, there is no difference, spiritually speaking, because what we have is Krishna's gift to us. Like the abilities, the talents that we have is actually Krishna's gifts to us. But what we do with those gifts, what we do with those qualities and abilities that we have, and how we offer it to Krishna back is our gift to Krishna. So we don't have anything to separately to offer to Krishna. We just have to use the same things that Krishna has already given us in his service. If we can do it with sincerity of heart or purity of intent, then that particular offering the same things that we have received from Krishna back to Krishna becomes an act of devotion. And Krishna is extremely pleased with that. So that's why Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhakti Upahrutam Ashnami Prayatatmana. So he says, Ashnami Prayatatmana and Bhakti Upahrutam. So it is the devotion that Krishna accepts. Vaishnava Acharya Thakur writes, why is he saying Ashnami? Because Patram Pushpam, leaf, flower, water. So nobody eats a flower. Ashnami means eating. So he says, Krishna is so excited that a conditioned soul finally has turned his attention towards him and is trying to offer something in it back to him. So even if it is a flower, Krishna is not just thinking, oh, this is a flower, I'm supposed to put it on my head or take smell the fragrance. He's so excited that finally, after millions of lifetimes, this soul has turned towards me and trying to offer this flower. He's so bewildered, he actually don't know what to do with that flower. So he starts eating it. So whether it is water, leaf, or flower, he's saying anything you offer, I'll eat, because flower is not generally is like not consumed, is like used in a different way. But Vishnu Chakra Thakur says, because Krishna is so like bewildered that he actually eats that flower out of that ecstasy. So that is how Krishna is so eager for the conditioned souls to turn towards him. So on this auspicious day of Ekadashi and the disappearance of Srila Narahari Sarkar, So we offer our prayers at the lotus feet of Narahari Sarkar and all the eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and to the lotus feet of Shri Gaura, that we can develop this eagerness to turn towards Krishna. Utilize this opportunity that we have received by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada to turn towards Krishna today, and in some way, through some expression of service, be it chanting, be it hearing, be it actually doing some physical services, or be it distributing books, or be it sharing the glories of Krishna with others, distributing prasad, in any form that we can actually become instruments of Krishna's grace in our own lives and in others' lives. Let us do it with sincerity and attempt for it today again recommitting ourselves to this mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in our own small or big way, trying sincerely and offering whatever we can in the service of Krishna. We can actually purify our hearts and also give pleasure to Krishna. So Krishna can be actually, we are infinitesimal, but even we have the opportunity to give some pleasure to Krishna. Can you imagine how wonderful is Krishna, that he is even trying to take pleasure from some very infinitesimal spirit soul? Because if something is infinite, and the opposite object who is trying to serve that infinite object is infinitesimal, it is so meager. Just imagine if a kid comes to you and you ask for water and it gives you a drop of water. Can we be actually honestly pleased with a drop of water being offered by a child to us? It's very difficult, because we want water to drink and we are being offered a drop, and we don't even have the ability to offer even a drop in our abilities to offering Krishna anything. Whatever we offer is not even a drop, and Krishna is willing to be pleased by his own accord, by his own sweet will. He is ready to become pleased even by that small minute offering, because a minute soul can only make a very minute offering. Still, we have that opportunity today to turn to Krishna and even offer that little minute service. But Krishna can choose to be unlimitedly become happy by our offering that minute service. That is Krishna's greatness. But we have the opportunity to give unlimited pleasure to Krishna, even though we are limited. That's not our greatness, that is Krishna's magnanimity. So, recognizing this great ability, even though we are infinitesimal, that this ability by Krishna's mercy, by Krishna's own sweet will that we possess, we can utilize that potential and try to experience it in our daily life. So thank you very much for this opportunity for me to reflect on the life of Srila Narahari Sarkar, and also to attempt to remind myself about the opportunity that I have by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and by the grace of all the Vaishnavas, that the opportunity I have in trying to render some service for the pleasure of Krishna. And I pray that we all can together perform this glorious service to Krishna. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Narahari Sarkar ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.